Hey everyone, this is Dr. Medicine RX, and in today's video we'll be discussing about benign tertiary syphilis, also known as gummatous syphilis. This is called as benign because the lesions that occur in this kind of syphilis have no major threat to life. And this is also called as gummatous syphilis because it is characterized by the occurrence of gamma. This is seen 3 to 10 years after infection and is seen in patients who do not cure spontaneously from late latent syphilis. Coming to the definition of what a gamma is, it is single or sometimes can be multiple, pin-headed to several centimeters in size, and it represents a maximal inflammatory response to a few organisms. And this can occur as a result of reactivation or inadequate treatment of syphilis, and it can also be because of super infection in a host that is already in an allergic stage from a previous infection. So on histopathology, this gamma is characterized as a nodule with central necrosis, and it is surrounded by a zone of granulation tissue that consists of lymphocytic and plasma cell infiltration mainly around the small blood vessels. This is what we call perivascular cuffing, and also there is going to be a peripheral narrow zone of tough fibrous tissue which acts as a capsule, and the blood vessels, they show end arteritis obliterans. The organisms, they cannot be demonstrated in this gamma. They can be demonstrated by animal inoculation. Coming to the clinical features, the structures that are involved include the covering structures, the supporting structures, and viscera. The covering structures of the body include the skin, mucous membrane, and subcutaneous tissues. The supporting structures include bones, joints, muscles, and ligaments, and viscera include the GIT, liver, spleen, and other abdominal organs majorly. Coming to the lesions of the covering structures, skin can show two types of lesions. One is the nodular lesions and the second is the psoriasiform lesions. These nodular lesions, they can undergo ulceration and form nodular ulcerative lesions. They begin as dull red painless nodules and they form a plaque later, and they can be covered by crust, and these heal by atrophic cigarette paper like scarring. And multiple nodules, they can occur in an arciform pattern with a predilection for the face, scapular, interscapular areas as well as the extremities. Next, psoriasiform lesions. These are also the scaly lesions. Here waxy scaling is seen, but there is no ulceration or scarring, and they are seen on the palms and soles, and Auspitz sign is negative, thereby differentiating them from the classical psoriatic lesions. Next, there is an entity called as pseudochancre redux, where a solitary gamma of the penis occurs at the site of the original chancre in primary syphilis. Coming to the lesions of the mucous membranes, these begin as painless swellings and they later break down to form punched out ulcers, and they can affect various mucous membrane areas such as the palate, both hard and soft palate, the nose, which can cause to saddle nose deformity, and even the perforation of palate can occur whenever there is a breakdown of these swellings. Then nasal septal perforation can also occur when gamma occur on the nasal septum. Throat is also involved, pharynx, larynx, and tonsils are also involved. Laryngeal lesions can cause laryngeal stenosis. On the tongue, there is going to be loss of filiform papillae, there is going to be chronic interstitial bursitis and leukoplakia. Coming to the subcutaneous tissue involvement, here the lesions are known as gammata, and these are deep granulomatous processes which also involve the epidermis secondarily, and sometimes they may also involve the underlying periosteum. They are either single or multiple in number, but they are painless, and they increase in size and they get attached to the overlying skin, and this skin then shows a dull red hue, and they later break down to form punched out ulcers which have round or polycyclic margins, and the walls and floor of these ulcers, they are covered with yellowish white necrotic tissue leading to a washed leather appearance. And these lesions, they are usually seen on the legs, the scalp, face, sternum, and sternoclavicular joints, and they also heal by thin tissue paper like scarring. Coming to the lesions of the supporting structures, first up, bones. Bones are most commonly involved in males, and this involvement appears 5 to 25 years after the original infection. And the bone involvement, the etiopathogenesis for this is that there is going to be inflammation of the periosteum, and there is infiltration by lymphocytes and plasma cells, and these, they cause osteoblast stimulation leading to irregular new bone formation. And then there is also inflammation of the cortex, and this cortex loses its cortical pattern because of the irregular bone formed over it, and the new bone formed has a sclerotic nature. And because of this new bone formation, there is also no tendency for bending or pathological fractures. However, in like membranous bones of the skull, the nasal septum, heart, palate, the destruction is faster than the new bone formation. Therefore, we can see the perforation. Then there is also gummatous process in the medullary cavity, as a result of which there is erosion of the cortex leading to syphilitic osteomyelitis. So the bone involvement can be classified as gummatous osteitis, periosteitis, and sclerosing osteitis, and localized osteitis is most common, and these can be seen on radiology. Periosteitis is seen as periosteal thickening. Gummatous osteitis is seen as destructive or osteomyelitis with changes of sclerosis, and sclerosing osteitis is seen as increased density and periosteal changes which hide the gummatous lesions. And the bones that are commonly affected include the tibia, clavicle, skull bones which have a worm-eaten appearance due to rarefaction, then fibula, femur, and humerus as well. And the patients, they present with pain which is usually nocturnal in nature. There can be tenderness, swelling, stiffness, and limitation of movements of the joints. Muscular involvement occurs secondarily because of gumma in subcutaneous tissue or underlying bone, and joints, bursae, and tendon sheaths are also involved in late stages of the disease, and all these together can cause arthralgias, synovitis, arthritis, and syphilitic bursitis. And we can also find hard fibrous nodules along the tendon sheaths or even near the joints. Coming to visceral involvement, parotid gland involvement causes parotitis and gumma. Esophageal involvement causes ulcer, tumors, and strictures. Stomach involvement can present as malignant or benign gastric ulcer which does not respond to H2 blockers. And the gumma, they cause obstructive scarring which after following the treatment, and this leads to the occurrence of an hourglass deformity. And liver involvement, the gumma heals with a characteristic heparlobatum deformity. Then breast involvement is seen as a tumor or an ulcer. The gumma can be mistaken for that. Eye involvement can present in the form of chronic iritis, chorioretinitis, interstitial keratitis, and atrophy of the optic nerve. Then testicular involvement is something of a characteristic entity called as billiard ball testis. So the gummata or the diffuse gummatous infiltration, it causes painless and slowly growing interstitial orchitis, and this swelling, it is very smooth, has a regular surface, and feels heavy, hence it is called as billiard ball testis. And the other viscera where gummata can occur include the brain, kidneys, bladder, heart, uterine cervix, thyroid, and adrenal glands. Thank you. Subscribe for more.